Just looking at my phone, nothing yet.
I keep refreshing YouTube for the video.
No, it's showing live actually now, live on YouTube on my
Yeah,
phone.
I got the message as well.
Yeah.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to P11 Celestial Live Business Session. I'm Tatiana Benavides, and I'm going to be the moderator for today's discussion. Celestial is part of the IGLUNA 2020 project, which is an activity coordinated by the Swiss Space Center as an ESA Lab at CH project. And now they are very successful and they're doing a startup, so we'll hear more about that today. Today, we will start with an introduction of the speakers, so we'll present who we are. I will also then present the IGLUNA project coordinated by the Swiss Space Center, and then we'll start this business session as a conversation to discuss the potential avenues for Celestial. We'll end up with some conclusions and future steps. So to start with, I would like to introduce Johannes Schumacher, who is the founder together with Mayank of Celestial. Johannes, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, gladly. So hello, everybody. Thank you for joining in and thank you for watching this video. My name is Johannes Schumacher. I am one of the founders of Celestial. Together with Mayank 2 years ago, we came together and founded the project. And it has been coming along very well since then. My background is actually in manufacturing engineering, but I always had an interest in the space industry and especially the startup scene. So this is why I'm very happy I found a space engineering co-founder and got to manage to set up Celestial. And now IGLUNA has provided us with a very great opportunity to improve our project management skills, but especially refine our technology.
Thank you, Johannes. Mayank, would you like also to introduce yourself?
Yes, gladly. So hi everyone, and thank you for joining in. And my name is Mayank. I am the founder at Celestial. Together, me and Joe, we are working on this project for past 2 years, as he told already. My background is an aerospace engineer, and I worked for a few years, a couple of years in industry as a stress analyst, and now I have been studying in Master in Space Engineering for past 2 years. In IGLUNA, actually, few days back, we were able to demonstrate our technology, which is remotely reconfigurable communication systems and antennas for small satellites. And we are very excited to have this session. Thank you. Thank you for everyone to join in with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayank. Indeed, the project show is available in our YouTube channel, so you can just look for it, P11 Celestial IGLUNA, and you will see it. And they did a fantastic job actually doing a test online live. So that was great to see, and congratulations, very nice project show. We're also honored today to have the presence of Frank Zimmerman. He's the managing director at CESAE and also the head of product policy management at Telespazio Vega in Deutschland. Frank, welcome. Would you like to introduce yourself as well?
Yes, Tatiana, thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here. As you already mentioned, I'm working for CESA. We are running a business incubator in Darmstadt, the ESA Big in Darmstadt, on behalf of ESA. And also in parallel, I'm also in charge of this product policy management with a colleague at Telespazio Vega Deutschland. I personally have a background in space engineering. I know the company Celestial since some time now. I have spoken to Mayank quite a while, and it's very interesting what they're doing. I actually witnessed also the demonstration earlier this week, and I was quite impressed. So I'm looking forward, and thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much, Frank. Alyosha Milstein unfortunately could not join us today. He is an investment management for the Initiative for Industrial Innovators. And then it's myself, Tatiana Benavides. I'm the hub manager at ETH Zurich of the Swiss Space Center there, and I'm also the project manager of IGLUNA. So I'll start up with IGLUNA. IGLUNA is a project coordinated with the Swiss Space Center in collaboration with ESA, the European Space Agency, and the Swiss Space Office. And we are running now the second edition of IGLUNA. So we started back in 2018, actually, concluding last year for the first edition. It runs for an academic year, so from September to July. And it was quite successful. So we went forward to 2020, which is the project that we're concluding now. And we aim to go forward for 2021. What we provide at the Swiss Space Center is a test bed for the students to develop their project throughout the year and to come at the end in this extreme environment and demonstrate their technology on the topic of how to sustain life in an extreme environment. Considering the last two editions, we had already over 300 students participating, and they come from 20 universities across the world. To give you some background information about what's the ESA Lab initiative, we have these three main aspects: the cooperation, which is an international platform, interdisciplinary. We have the inspiration and education of the students, which will become the next generation of space experts. And we also focus on developing the technologies for the future of space exploration. The last edition of IGLUNA was the first project. It was a demonstrator project to show how this ESA Lab initiative could work. So we learned a lot, and also that helps us to continue with these ESA Lab activities. The topic last year was a habitat in ice. So we went to a glacier, and you can see students brought their technologies up in the glacier. They were also inside building the habitat, putting their equipment there, showing how it works, getting results and testing them. And also downtown, they showed the concepts to the public and tested their concepts. We had many important visitors, like you can see here, ESA Director General, also the representatives from ESA, the European Space Agency, the Swiss Space Office, and the government side of Switzerland. We had the younger generation with school tours. We had industry, so space experts were there as well, astronauts, and it was open for the general public. We had 20 student teams, and they all came at the end of this year with their prototypes, with their technologies to test it in this extreme environment. And we got a very positive feedback, so we decided to go forward for IGLUNA 2020 this year and increase the challenge, because we don't repeat the same thing. We always go one level up. And this time we focused on the space habitat, but with remote operations. Again, based on the ESA Lab initiative, building on the heritage we had from the previous projects and pushing the technologies a step further as well. This year we had 15 student teams, each coming from their own university across 10 countries. In total, 150 students participating. And you can see P11 Celestial is under the communication and navigation topic. So we are very happy. We had the different universities. P11 Celestial is from TU Berlin in Germany, and we also had 9 other countries together, 10 countries joining us. And what initially was supposed to happen at the field campaign this summer was a field campaign, a test bed in Pilatus at Lucerne at the top of the mountain, where students would have placed their technologies there. And for Celestial, they would have placed their antenna there to communicate directly downtown in Lucerne to the Verkehrshaus, the Swiss Museum of Transport, where we had the control room. So they were going to send signals across the city and test the technology there. Unfortunately, with the virus, we could not have that, so we had a virtual field campaign instead. But still, Celestial was quite successful on proving their technology. Even if they could not join the testbed here in Switzerland, they did it at home with their local partners there. So that was very great to see. And during this virtual field campaign, we're actually ending on Sunday. So we have 2 more days of the campaign. We started on the 10th of July. And it's all live stream sessions. They remain online, available to the public on our YouTube channel. We had official ceremonies, the inauguration. We'll have the Space Awards tomorrow, and then the closing ceremony as well. The student project shows. Each student team got 1 hour to present their project, to run their test, and a Q&A session with the public as well, so they could interact with the public. And we had also space expert talks. So astronauts and representatives from academia, from the industry joining to inspire students, but as well to inform the public and increase the space awareness. We were also happy to host 2 Celestial sessions, a technical session last week, which is also available in our YouTube channel, and today's business session. So with this, I would like to start the session. Thank you everyone for joining. I'll stop sharing my screen. And now I would like to start perhaps with a general remark. So maybe from Frank Zimmerman, if you could tell us more about the space market. So just to introduce this business session, what's the moon market, the moon economy? Is it there, or is it happening, and when?
Well, that's a very good question. I think that many people are asking exactly that question. And if I knew the answer, I would be, of course, grateful. As a matter of fact, this is something we also discussed early. Mayak is already laughing, because you have to have a vision. That's very clear, and there will be a market. I'm very convinced of that with the moon. But the question is by when. What you can do, of course, in the meantime is develop components, capabilities, your core competencies that you are prepared for this market. But it is very important to also have market access earlier. So, for example, use communication that you are developing in an efficient manner also for low Earth orbit, orbiting satellites. And this is what Celestia is preparing for, as far as I understand. So there is definitely a potential, but a startup, and we are, of course, as you know, supporting many startups in their development of products and services. They have to also look into how can I earn money now, just now, and that is a very important aspect. What, of course, helps is that there are a lot of funding opportunities around, not only in the ESA BIC, there are funding opportunities for many stakeholders from the agencies. So, of course, you can develop your competencies, but in the end, you need to reach the market at some point. And if we now compare our German or even European market to the international market, we have maybe a further challenge. If you look into what SpaceX is doing, they have a pipeline of launches where they are being supported by their customers, by NASA. And for startups here in Europe, this is much more challenging. It's not so simple. And I wouldn't say it's a problem of a lack of investment. This is there as well. But of course, you need to have, for example, launch opportunities, to stay with the example of SpaceX. If you don't have that, you cannot prepare for it, then you cannot invest yourself, your own resources. And I think on a smaller scale, this is applicable to all the startups, also to Celestial in this case. So you have to find your niche where you can make revenue just now, and then, of course, scale later on. When we look into the crisis, I would also say it's worth thinking about that. How does that affect the space market? We have had many discussions on this with colleagues from different companies and institutions. And at the moment, it looks like the space industry is not so much impacted immediately, but this is something which can happen later on. Yeah, I mean, we have to be very much aware that the space market is also to some extent still an institutional market. So dominated by public funding. And that is, of course, also needed now for other very good reasons. And therefore, the question is what's going to happen in the next years? Yeah. So nobody really knows. I'm still convinced that there is, of course, a market also for the moon. But it is important for every startup to prepare for the current activities and for current revenues. That, I believe, should be in focus as well.
Thank you very much, Frank. You touched a lot of different topics I would like to dig deeper into. So you mentioned SpaceX and so the American space market. How is it comparing to the European one? Is there a difference between the different regions of the world, Celestial being based here in Europe? Does that make a difference?
To some extent, yes, because the market is not as much developed, the commercial market, as it is in the US. But to be honest, this is something where we all have to work on, where it's clear that politics and also the space agencies are working towards. It's very clear what you call new space has to happen also here in Europe. And I think we are very much prepared. You have the innovative startups, you have investors becoming more and more interested in this market to support the startups. So there's a lot of hope, but still we have to further develop this. It's not going to happen by itself. And I think some opportunities, I mean, you are supporting missions, do help the startups to develop their capabilities. And that is a very important enabler.
Good. That's a very good insight. Maybe I would like to switch over to Celestial because maybe our viewers are not aware of your technology exactly. So maybe you can start by presenting your activities at Celestial and addressing this particular point of what would be your competitive advantage as well.
Yeah. So we started with this project, as Joe said, 2 years ago, and our vision is to actually enable a lunar communication infrastructure so that there is actually a viable way to go with the cheap satellites, or so to say, economical satellites, and do moon missions to enable this lunar economy and cislunar economy. And we just want to focus on developing these communication systems and these antennas, which will actually be with the one new form factor enable this. And the USP lies in the area where these antennas would further be developed into a flat panel array antennas. So right now we are working on element. It's a single element that we are perfecting it and trying to make it as efficient as it can in its performance levels, so that even today's existing market, which is around low Earth orbits and Earth observation market, can already make use of these antennas. But then looking towards this is also a technology development timeline where we are looking at flat panel array antennas using these elements and making it to the moon in a deep space environment, and giving a possibility to these lunar missions to be as stable as they can by using the advantages of the beam array antennas. And on the side of communication system, we are already looking at having a communication system that is really small, which can, so the communication system that we demonstrated two days back is just requires 1 watt of input power, which is one of the lowest you will find in the industry available right now. So this is the kind of idea to target: have a system which is consuming minimum input power, and try to compromise on or contribute from the side of hardware, which is antenna, which will strengthen your signal and send it to the receptor or wherever you want to transmit the signal, and take advantage of the hardware rather than the input power. So we are enabling these kind of systems. Plus the system should be really reconfigurable in the orbit, so to say, give an opportunity to the ground station or the satellite operator to reconfigure it and reuse your satellite into another mission that you have the possibility to use your satellite. So if you already look back at the space market, we saw how things changed when reusability of rockets came into picture. This was a huge game changer for space industry. And now I think next step is already to reuse satellites, which is not happening in the space industry, or so to say has not happened yet in the space industry. And this is one thing that we will try to target in the Earth market, but keeping in mind the final aim or final vision for the moon market as well when it comes.
I see. I am wondering if you are planning to launch your own Earth Moon constellation. Is that your main goal, or better to become a communication system developer for other sat constellations? So, or maybe you have one goal here now, and you think this would change in the future, depending how the market goes.
I mean, at this point, when I look at this, it's a little bit tricky to say we will develop our own satellites. It's a very complex thing to develop a satellite, also very costly. And you need a lot of different expertise, which generally a startup doesn't have. Startup is meant to focus on one key technology that they build or they bring to the table, and then they look for collaborations to target for the bigger vision. So right now we are focused on these two parallel technology lines, which is communication systems and antennas. But then yes, if in the future we are able to generate enough funds, depends on our pocket. If it is big enough, then we hire all these expertise into the team and we build our own satellites. But if not, then we are actually looking at the moment for collaborations where our partners bring in their different inputs to the table, and we make this constellation and put this up for future lunar missions.
I understand. Thank you.
add,
Johannes, something to add? Yes.
Yeah, I was just going to add something. So I think the keyword here really was enabling the lunar economy. So because when we think or when we see about the space industry today, this is what the generation before my generation, what they built and what they were able to accomplish was the first satellite in space. They were able to accomplish to send the first human to space, and eventually also the first humans to the moon. So now what I see with what is on my generation to accomplish is, or what we will see actually, in my generation, is the emergence of a lunar, of a cislunar economy, and also settlements on the moon. And this is really also what the vision of Celestial is, to enable this and to push for this, to make this possible. And as Mayank already highlighted, the technology we are developing is supposed to go in commercial satellites and smaller satellites, but also potentially in our own satellites. But the key here is to enable the lunar economy, to make these systems available to smaller satellites, so that not only big missions can go to the moon, but also smaller missions. Of course, we did an early market study, or let's say an early mission study of lunar missions, and we were able to find 55 missions planned to go to the moon over the next decades alone. And the interesting thing is these are both commercial or public and private. So they're from space agencies, but also from commercial private companies. So all of them really, they have their own business models. They want to deliver payloads, deliver experiments to the moon. They want to do mining on the moon for resources. They want to do tourism. So all of them have their own business models, but it's all bigger missions. So we want to make it possible that also smaller missions, smaller satellites can go to the moon, and all of this is supposed to enable the lunar economy also for smaller players, for new space explorers, and with that really build this up. So this is something this will happen in the future, what many people are working towards too.
Yeah, actually, I think one more point which is quite important actually, and I think we can already discuss with Dr. Frank Zimmerman here is that what we presented 2 days back is a customer end product for us, which goes to the customers who are going on the surface of the moon. This is something that we will develop for our satellites, but on a larger scale that has more input power to transmit it, back to the Earth ground station. So we at this time are already in a phase of developing customer end products for our customers who would go for market and can take this system as a system integration into their hardware. And which is what I would like to know from Dr. Frank Zimmerman is, even if there is no communication infrastructure existing currently, having built this kind of products already, which are reconfigurable, how much scope it has, I mean, according to you, that should we wait for these kind of infrastructures to come before, or should we directly go and build these customer end products? What is the right strategy here that we should opt for?
I will try to answer this on a more generic level, because in your particular case, you have to, of course, analyze what are the requirements for your specific users, what do they have to find this attractive for them as a solution. In general, I would always say you are at the stage where you have to develop a market still. Yeah. And I can see some parallels to what we are trying to do in general with startups by supporting startups. The main objective of ESA, which we work for, is essentially to show the benefit and what space technology can do for, let's say, real life applications, but also how one can enhance space technology such that it is more commercialized, so it's more efficient, cheaper, better to use. It's always also a communication challenge. So I believe you have to ask the question, now I have a system, I have a vision where I, of course, develop my systems towards, but on the other hand, how can I actually approach a user who doesn't know yet the benefit? Now, what is the use case that this user would benefit from? I would ask myself this question and then simply try based on your demonstrations. I mean, this is already very good. So you're not talking about something on paper, you're talking about something which works. And now you need to kind of find someone, could be the Swiss Space Agency, for example, to demonstrate a real case where people can make either money from or have another benefit that they would be willing to pay. So it's all about creating a success story which you can use to scale. Yeah. So I would not wait for the infrastructure that others might build or not might build. To summarize what I just said, I would proactively, and I think you're doing a very good job here, proactively show the benefit and also what is the added value of a product, of a service which is building on your competence. What can that bring to the user? And how can they solve their problems, being it communication problems or other problems where communication just plays an enabling role. Yeah. So actively develop the market. That would be my recommendation, which is not trivial.
This is what we are trying to do actually. Yeah. Thank you.
That is a very good point. Yes. Maybe to dig deeper, what would you say about Celestial? Like, what's your impression from the team? What would you say it's a competitive advantage compared to other similar well, not projects, but now, yes, companies that are coming up, even bigger companies as well compared to the smaller ones and new ones?
I would say the agility. I mean, I already mentioned that we know each other now since some time, which doesn't mean that we have spoken on a regular basis. We have spoken a few times, and I see a lot of evolution since. I mean, when we spoke first, the moon mission was more or less the vision, and that's where we are working towards. And now I see that you focus also much more on use cases which are similar, which are closer in reach time-wise. Yeah. So I think your main strength, and this is an experience we made over more than 10 years supporting startups. We have supported more than 100 startups, and I can tell you, I mean, there is this saying that a very good team can always develop and sell kind of a weak product, but you can have the best product ever. If the team is not all right, it's not going to work. Yeah. So I hope you have both. But definitely the team is core, and your agility, your dynamic adaptation to market needs is your strength. That's what I see. Besides all the other technical strengths, of course, as well, and your link to agencies, this is all very important. But the key is the agility, and it's the lean startup approach. You need to adjust to what is really needed. Yeah. Not to lose touch with your potential client.
I agree with that. Perhaps Johan or Maya, if you want to complement on your perspective, what is the value you provide to customers? So what's your specialty there? If you agree with Frank, what he just said, if you want to add something else.
Yeah,
this.
absolutely. So you were asking about the competitive advantage. So I would absolutely agree. We try to be as agile as possible to adapt to market needs and customer needs. And also, most importantly, seek out to customers, but also to experts, to industry experts. So based on that, I would say our competitive advantage is definitely the fact that we have in-house development. Our core technology is developed in-house down to the level of the mathematical model where Mayank actually sat down with a piece of pen and paper and wrote down the equations. So we have this down to the engineering and mathematical model, all in-house. Yet still, at the same time, we've been reaching out to many industry experts, to engineers, to business experts, to consultants, to financial experts, to really from all different possible angles to validate our approaches, our designs, and our models, our ideas. And we try to incorporate as much feedback as possible. So I would say really our approach to incorporate that feedback and to be outspoken about the ideas, to not hide our ideas, but really present them and put them under scrutiny and consider the feedback. I think this has helped us a lot also to grow and evolve, as Frank mentioned. And I think this will help us a lot in the future to develop a product that is really high performance, but also very much needed and can provide value to a lot of missions.
Yeah, actually, just adding one more thing to this quickly, is that me and Joe, we have this one thing where we do not get satisfied very easily with our own work. This is always the case, and nobody tries to entertain nobody actually. So this is another case which has pros and cons, I can tell you already. But more or less in long term, this is always positive when you are not satisfied easily, and this you can already see in how we did our IGLUNA actually. So when we started this project, I personally was convinced we won't be able to do this. This is something we have taken as a headache now, and we are going to go down big times now. And especially, trying to do something big, which you have no expertise in. But now when I see this back, I try to see every aspect of it. Let's say the demonstration. People expected that we would do a live demonstration, but we were able to go one step ahead, and we did a collaboration also with Estonian company. So, and when it comes to sessions like these, we were expected to do a live demonstration. We just try to opt for multiple and try to go live and create more awareness about our project, be more vocal about it. And when it comes to finding fundings, we were trying to get very actively to Munich, to Berlin, try to find out all the sources we can. And then it comes to collaborations. Then there are 10 different companies who are our partners in this project, and we could convince them to work with us. And even more than that, when we are having these kind of sessions, we are trying to reach out to our connections, to the people who we think will give us a feedback that will guide us in the right direction. And that too on a live demonstration, a live discussion, which could go anywhere. I mean, this could be this could be very easily a disaster for us. But we are trying to be more active, we are trying to be more exposed, we are taking more risks. I think this is where the strength of the team lies. We are not worried to fail, we are actually trying to fail. And this is the key which enables innovations, when you want to fail and you do not fail somehow. So I think this is, according to me, the strength of the team, that both of us, we are a little bit crazy. We need to be. Yeah.
You're right. Actually, this was shown during your participation in IGLUNA, and we could see it since the beginning, also very ambitious, but not just thinking about it, actually doing it with actions. And now that you touch IGLUNA, it's a good, because today we had also the stakeholders day. So you had different meetings with stakeholders, with experts, but also for future potential collaboration. So maybe if you can give us feedback, how was that for you today? And if you could elaborate also about your whole IGLUNA experience, so how the lessons learned help you now become a better startup. Because for us, on our impression from the IGLUNA side, you are really an example of what we want for IGLUNA student teams. So what we try to push is the academic research. So projects that are going in academia, push them for a transition to commercial applications. And that's exactly what happened with you. So we are very happy with your results, and we hope we keep inspiring other teams and motivating them and pushing them so they achieve your results, which are really successful.
Yeah, I can briefly touch on the lessons learned, but I would ask Joe to tell us how how the day went. All right. So lessons learned. So the documentation was very important for us, as I highlighted also in the live demo. The documentation, actually, the project started in September, and we had this PDR in November, 8th of November, and this is when actually entire project came clear to me, when I wrote the first SD. So that was the point when I realized, okay, we did a disaster already. So but we started working on that, and we finally did a good project. But I can tell you how documentation is very important, because whenever we went for these partners for for this funding negotiations, for any kind of discussions, having these kind of SDs gave us a lot of content to discuss easily. The idea was very clear, and we already had these PDR, CDR presentations with us. We could took the main slides out of it, share it with them, and they could give us a feedback. This was very key or enabling point that we had to make our conversation very effective, and the first conversation very effective, which is very rare actually in my experience also. Generally you start making progress from second or third conversation, but we were already going with the first conversation, and before that they already had these effective documents which they could very easily relate, and we had very effective results very soon. Secondly, I think Swiss Space Center is very helpful. Having project like this is already something that you need in your education to get an exposure. But when you have somebody who pushes you to go 1 mile ahead, and also arrange for your funding, arrange for your partner, try to see how people think. This is a holistic approach. It's a little bit harsh on the students who don't have the experience. We were doing this from past 2 years. It was easy for us, but I think you need to get through this patch, hard patch, to actually understand how things actually work in industry. So I remember then when I used to say, even if you want to be a good employee, you need to understand how companies are made, how companies work, and this is where now this exposure come. All 130 150 students who are in IGLUNA, now they got an exposure of how to negotiate, how to project an idea, to get funding, to get partners. And now even if they work under a project, someday or the other they will have to write proposals, they will have to do something. This is already a very good position you are in life, that you get this exposure and move ahead in this direction. So this was one of the key learning from IGLUNA. Also working on ECSS standards to make reports is a very good exposure here, and this is very standard, and already makes you ready for big reports, big proposals that you have to send out. And I'm actually hearing myself back.
Yes, I think there is an echo. I don't know if it's with Frank, perhaps because we see your computer lighting up. Thank you very much.
All right. And apart from this, the last point which I would like to touch is I mean, although due to pandemic, we could not do this in the field demonstration, but I think it's even better done virtually. I could just connect with how many audience, I don't even know. I mean, there are already 400, 500 views on the YouTube demonstration. And I could get so much on these sessions. I could collect my connections and my experts that I wanted to talk in any way. I had this stakeholders day. So to me, it was all well done, even in spite of pandemic. So I would also like to congratulate Swiss Space Center on this, because adapting to these unexpected situation is always tough on this large scale when you are dealing internationally in 10 different universities and 15 different countries. So all of this is already I think commendable. But Joe can tell us how our day was. Please, Joe.
Yeah, this was kind of an internal discussion we had earlier about the day, because we had mixed feelings about the day, but it was definitely an important day. And what I think is today, especially with these stakeholder meetings, this was just how this went was a perfect example of our approach and what I meant earlier. Because there's 2 points here to be mentioned. Number one is the networking we do and how we are outspoken, and number two is our development approach. So with our networking, as I mentioned earlier, we try to reach out to experts, to be outspoken, not to hide our ideas. And this is what we have done over the past 2 years. So we've been actively attending all events possible we could find. Actually, this is where we started. It was a public event. It was a hackathon in Berlin. So Berlin has a great startup events and meetup scene, which has many of these small events, which are great for networking. So we've been doing this. We've been doing this not only in Berlin, but across Germany, even across Europe, trying to find workshops, trade fairs, events, everything. And this is also where Mayank met Frank Zimmermann in Darmstadt. This was also a public event. This is also where we met other companies, organizations who have been supporting us, for example, Industrial Innovators, the Initiative for Industrial Innovators, which we had access to also because we consider acceleration incubation programs really across Germany, across Europe, actually international. We're considering incubation across the entire globe. So we are really outspoken and try to get as much feedback back into the project as possible. And this was also today the case, because the connections we had today during the stakeholder meetings, many of them were not new. They were existing connections where we used this opportunity to continue the discussion and to have a more in-depth discussion about our project. And this was both from the engineering side, but also from the business side. So this is also something we try to do. We look at our entire project, the Celestial project, from all angles. This is not supposed to be one-sided. This is not supposed to be engineering-based only. This is not supposed to be marketing-based only. This is my philosophy. This is definitely our philosophy, that all of these different points of views, all of these angles have to come together and have to complement each other. And same goes for the team and their backgrounds. So everything has to work together, complement each other to realize success. So, and then the second thing is really our development approach. What I meant. Because that also means when you get lots of feedback, sometimes you get bad feedback, or actually not bad feedback, but you get critique, or to put it in a more positive way, people point out to you what you can do better, what you should do better. And this is definitely not feedback that we shy away from. In fact, this is always a standard question. So what can we do better? What is not good? What should we improve, right? And this was also today the case. As it was the case throughout the past 2 years, when business but also engineering feedback has been that what we are developing is not new, this is not special, this is not that innovative, it may exist already.
This is great to hear that actually, I mean, the feedback you got on the whole process of IGLUNA helped you as well to get even farther and that you're taking it. So it means our efforts at the Swiss Space Center, our work is actually valuable. And it's really nice to hear that and to confirm that we are not only creating an output out of this IGLUNA project, not just the number of students that participating and how many projects, how many countries, but actually an outcome. So there's something happening after that.
Just to say,
Yes.
my audio is I think not working properly. I'll rejoin in. Okay.
Okay. Thank you for letting us know. So Mayank is connecting now. So this is really positive and really enriching. So we can continue hopefully in the future with this and maybe to involve also Frank in this conversation. How do you see this type of programs in these initiatives like IGLUNA helping these students to create the startups to go with the business from your experience as well?
Yeah, thank you. I think I can actually confirm this. What we are doing, for example, is we are participating or sometimes organizing ourselves innovation competitions where you normally get an idea. And I see Johannes has behind himself the roll-up of the InnoSpace where they successfully participated, which is one good example. And then, of course, the hackathons and workshops along with that, maybe even boot camps if you do it over a longer period of time. We made very good experience with that. And actually, I wanted to ask the team what their opinion about open innovation in general is. So to use such opportunities to develop the team, to develop the proposition, the technology further, with help from others. So not in isolation. I mean, you started with pencil and paper. This is very important on the one hand side, but it's also important to open as quickly as possible for inputs from outside. I mean, I don't have to ask the question anymore because you already explained that you quite very well benefit from all this over the last 2 years. And maybe let me just summarize. There are several hackathons across Europe. We heard that. One is Act in Space, just to mention one because it's coming up in November. It's again across Europe, and we have one edition in Darmstadt. So just feel welcome to join that. There will certainly be also an online opportunity, some presence hopefully in the Corona crisis possible by then. I can only underline hackathons, workshops in terms of boot camps, also ID competitions are of the essence to create ideas, innovation, and also building the team. And you have to be open from inputs from outside. And I'm happy that you already confirmed that you are doing this yourself.
Thank you. Thank you for complimenting with that. And maybe to add also to figure what is the strategy of Johannes and Mayank at Celestial, not only for the for participating in these events, but in particular to get partners. How do you get new partners? Is it only through these events or what is your strategy there?
So the the events definitely play a big role, although it's the people you meet during the events are basically like-minded people, so also entrepreneurs, at least when we talk about hackathons. And you meet a lot of people with lots of interesting ideas, but there's always a jury panel. Maybe there was a pitching competition, right? There's always a host. There's always people in attendance, guests, and they can really be from any company, any industry, all over the globe. So there's no really a telling beforehand who you can meet there and how this will help out. So the events definitely play a big role. But the second side to this is really also actively reaching out, really also a cold outreach. So of course, for that, you need to know beforehand what you're looking for, what type of support you're looking for, whether it's engineering, whether it's business, whatever. And then basically there goes some research into this to figure out what kind of companies, what kind of organizations, institutions, programs can help you with that. So there's research work that goes into this, also with acceleration programs, right? And then there's a cold outreach required. But then there's also business networks, online networks, where lots of people share lots of initiatives. So it's really important to keep an open eye on every input from every side and to consider that. But then also it's just as important to prioritize, because you cannot simply blindly go for any project, any company you find. You have to look at them, but then you have to prioritize and really make an assessment of your time invested into trying to set up this connection, whatever it is really worth the outcome. And this is really also, this is not only taking, this is also giving, because what you also always have to consider is what you as a project, so and now I'm speaking in terms of giving advice to other teams, but if I do that, I would say that you also always have to consider what you as a team, as a project can provide to your partners, what kind of opportunities you provide. And there should be something. I mean, if there's some traction, some support behind your project, there's also something you can provide. And this is also where teams have to be creative to highlight that. And this is also something we have done now with IGLUNA. This is also how we have been able to, for example, realize the partnership with SpaceIt from Estonia, where we did the demonstration together. We outlined to them that what we can offer is basically the access to this IGLUNA field campaign, which is also a platform for them to present their solution. So this is also really giving back to the partners, and that's for sure. And then it's also basically always warm introductions, always good. I think that if there's a conversation with anybody, with any expert, any mentor, one of the last standard questions that you should have is to ask if there's any colleague, any company, anybody that person has in mind that might be interested in your project and that you should follow up with. And then this takes some time, but over time this generates more traction and the network will grow, which will lead to partnerships for sure.
That's great to hear, actually. Thank you for sharing your advice to the other student teams. It's really nice to see it hands first, so from your own experience, from students to other students. And I hope they will be able to take it. And I was thinking now that you mentioned, well, hackathons and these type of events for the networking, but now with the coronavirus situation, many of these events have been postponed or canceled. How has this affected your activities? And maybe not only for the networking, I was also thinking further for funding activities. Maybe is it more limited now in this crisis situation, or how has this challenge been? How have you been affected by this challenge, actually?
Yeah, there has been an effect for sure. So first of all, what I'd like to also mention is that this year we were all kind of robbed of the physical IGLUNA event, which is very unfortunate. I mean, I was in Lucerne one day at Mount Pilatus. It's a very beautiful site, and it was impressive to see the scope of event that was planned for IGLUNA 2020 to set up the field campaign, or let's say the testing field on the mountaintop with the control station and the exhibition. at the local city of Lucerne, and with the many kilometers vertical and horizontal in between. So just the pure scope of this setup was impressive. So it was kind of unfortunate that this didn't happen. There's no other way of saying this. It's a bit sad. But then at the same time, was also impressive how Swiss Space Center was able to shift to a completely virtual setup. So this is definitely a great job done by Swiss Space Center. And I saw a similar thing happening by many organizers who also had physical events planned, but instead of canceling, they still happened. They happened virtually. They happened online. One example is ILA in in Berlin. So where they shifted to an online event series, which was then purely about matchmaking. So they provided anybody who registered, they provided them a platform to mention what they just down to the core, what they're looking for and what they can offer. And then based on that, there was purely matchmaking only. So the if you want to say so, the upside of the entire last month and how the changes is definitely that online events, at least the ones that I've been part of, they really focused on the core of bringing people together, of matching them. So this definitely happened, and I thought with some events that actually helped. There was more contacts, more conversations you could have over a shorter period of time, which made everything also much more effective. So the networking definitely continued, and it will also continue. But for sure, the on-site physical presence is always very fun. I hope this can be started over soon, very safely again, and I have high hopes that we will make through all of this. So, but the effect definitely was much bigger on the side of having access to facilities, to actually being able, especially if you work on a hardware project, to be able to do manufacturing, to do testing. So there was definitely setbacks with us, but with all teams. This is what affected everybody in the same way. And how we managed to do this, well, basically, my young turned his private room into a lab. So we had great support also from Technical University of Berlin, who simply shipped lots of the equipment to my young's private room and turned this into a lab, which maybe my young also wants to share a few words about, which is also a fun story. But it's always about finding alternatives, and there are alternative ways to do things.
Mayank, you
Yeah,
wanted,
actually,
yes, to
yeah,
add something.
definitely. This one is, I didn't plan to bring this out here, but since it is out, you are coming back to my room to clean it.
Oh, no.
All right. But just coming back to the point, how this affected, I think I will always remember this period, not because it's an pandemic that happened, but because it's my first company that happened during this time. So this is a period, I think, if I see from the Celestial project, is kind of a positive time for the project, for the company. It got into this, and again, the entire presentations and everything was supposed to be in person, but we were able to do this also remotely. In the is a big panel, and I think nothing major has been stopped in our way. There are many events that got cancelled, but for example, two of our research papers got selected this year into IAC, which is supposed to be in October 2020, and they did not simply cancel anything. They said you can still submit your papers via online methods. So I think people are very adaptive. I think race adapts very easily, and this I can see already in the effects. Yes, there are few events that I wanted to go personally. For example, there were tech demo days which got cancelled. There are meetings that got cancelled because of this in these events. But again, you can meet people, you can collaborate. Only one disadvantage that I saw during this period was, and you can see this in our IGLUNA field campaign as well, We wanted to do additive manufacturing in antennas. We couldn't do this. This was a setback. We also wanted to print more RF front ends. Actually, our system would have been even better if we would have done 2 or 3 more iterations, because we had already ideas to improve next iteration of the hardware. But we couldn't print this in spite of having lab between us. We were very lucky that the iteration we just printed of the hardware before the pandemic worked. If it would not have worked, we would have ended up into a disaster, standing just with the sad faces and doing a simple presentation. But it worked. We were lucky. Antennas worked. We were lucky. So we were really lucky in this way that once we developed the technology, it worked, partially or fully, but it worked, and we were able to do a demonstration as effectively. I also actually want to bring this back to focus on the effectiveness of the team that we have. The team is really, really focused. Once we do it, it works, partially or fully. And if it doesn't work, we are able to analyze what the error is and we are able to rectify it. So I think when you are a startup, things are not in your hand. But one thing you should definitely do: avoid repetition of the work, avoid making silly mistakes, because this will either in pandemic or out of pandemic will not end up good for you if you don't learn. Start learning from the things, and make a progressive steps, not something that you have to repeat after every month, because this will be loss of time and energy for other people also, not for just you, but for people you come in contact with, which is never good. So yeah.
That's true. And I would just like to add, it's not only luck that you got everything to work at the first trial. I would say it's your hard work and that you planned everything and you thought about everything. So it really worked once you got to manufacture it. So congratulations for that. And it's really, well, the lucky part was that it happened just before the pandemic, so you were at least with that material already available. But it's good to see how you adapted for the situation as well. So also it shows again your agility, the flexibility of the team that Frank was also highlighting before. And maybe Frank, how do you see these challenging times at the moment? Are they affecting the funding opportunities for Celestial or for other companies as well in the space market?
Well, of course, there is an impact, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel, we should say. And to be honest, I mean, I can make it up in terms of numbers about startups that apply with us, very innovative startups, I must say. We have a number of places that we can occupy per year. And honestly, when the crisis picked up, I was a little bit worried. How will the response be now in these times? And as a matter of fact, it's just the same or even better. So we have done 2 evaluations and we got many very good applicants. We selected the best ones. And actually we are booked out for this year already, and we are already collecting startups for next year for support. So from that point, the crisis didn't affect us, which is a very good news. Of course, communication to startups is impacted, but as today, I mean, there are solutions to actually overcome this. Actually, no, if you would have asked me a few weeks ago, what is the real impact? I would have said, talking to people whom you know already is not so much of an issue, but getting to know new people is difficult. As a matter of fact, even that works. So I think in the end, hopefully, looking back, we can say that at least we took some of the opportunities on board that this crisis has asked us to take on board. And one is talking to each other also remotely and keeping the strong links. So it is, of course, a tragedy. That's no doubt about that. But I think we are doing the best out of it.
That's good to hear. Maybe just out of curiosity, and maybe our viewers also want to know, what does ISABIC Germany offers to the startups?
Yes, thank you for asking this question. I should not forget to mention this. If you apply with a business plan, there is a selection round. You pitch in front of a jury. And once you are taken, you receive financial support. In our case, that's 25K from ESA and DLR, and another 25K from the region, the state of Hesse. And that's, of course, more or less similar to all the ESA BICs. So it's always a combination of ESA funding with funding from a regional or local partner. But that's not all. You also get the support in terms of technical advice. In our case, we are working closely with the European Space Operations Center, which we are located to, neighboring actually ESOC, and colleagues there, as well as industry working there, are providing our startups with free of charge technical support. So on top of the financial support, you get a certain contingent. In our case, it's 80 hours, up to 80 hours of support, which you don't have to pay for. And that, of course, can make a difference because it helps you using space technology and prepare for your market. There are banks, of course, supporting with loans. This is another aspect. And we have a network of business angels and investors. We had an investment forum at ISOC more or less a year ago in Darmstadt. And there we have also many contacts which we can forward to our startups. For example, we organize regular pitching rounds with investors. So we're trying to make sure that there is no gap when the funding is over, that the startups can continue maybe with an investment, ideally already on the market.
That's very complete. I'm sure it's very valuable for the startups. Maybe just to ask from Johannes and my perspective, what else would you need besides what you will be getting from ISABIC Germany? Are you looking for other funding opportunities for other partnerships? What would be your further needs?
So funding, of course, every startup needs funding. We are looking at many funding channels in parallel, public, private, corporate. This is out of the question, and we're trying to come up with as many options as possible. So we're definitely looking for funding options. And ideally, an investor for us would also be a long-term strategic partner. So someone who is also interested in our long-term vision to help us enable that to not only develop our products and our technology right now for the Earth market and set us up as a subsystem component provider, but also to upgrade this and make this ready and tolerant to go into deep space so we can start our lunar mission. So this is really what we would like to have ideally, a long-term strategic partner who would also help us with a lot of knowledge, of course, and industry insight. So besides that, what we definitely need is access to facilities. We have technology, we have developed this to some level, but right now it's about testing. So we need access to testing facilities, especially considering telecommunication. This is very important, and then also soon for many standard tests of getting systems in orbit ready. So that's thermal, vacuum, mechanical, but also most importantly radiation testing. That's definitely a very big aspect for us. But besides that, we are really open to many different collaborations and partnerships. And one more thing that we are looking to build very soon is our outreach channels, or let's say our marketing and sales channels. So we are definitely interested in companies who will be able to leverage our product, our service, our offerings, maybe integrating them into what they offer, or maybe helping us distribute it, or maybe we can help each other distribute that. Right, so there can be many options on that side. We are very open to this. And besides that, we are also looking for people. That's for sure. We need self-motivated people, most importantly. We ourselves are not industry experts with 10 years of experience. This is definitely not the case. But we have the self-motivation, we have the initiative to learn anything and to catch up. So we're looking for people who have these capabilities and who can learn on the job, learning by doing, and are willing to help us out. And there's many more things I guess we're looking for, but off the top of my head, this is the most important things right now.
I mean, just to summarize, we are looking for all other things. Please come to us.
Indeed, we will add your contact details in the video summary below so people can contact you. And well, at the Swiss Space Center, we're also happy to keep supporting you with our contacts. We have at ESA also for the infrastructure like we were setting up. So we hope that works, and we keep supporting you as well with our network and we look forward for your developments. As we approach now the hour, so we have to start concluding the session. I would like maybe just do a last round about future perspectives. So maybe we can start with Frank about how you see Celestial, if you could have a forecast, how they can fit in the future for the new space exploration activities.
Well, this is an easy task on the one hand side, but a very difficult task on the other hand. I can't predict how it will turn out, but what I can tell you, they are very well positioned. So they have the right team, they have the capabilities, they have a product, they have a core competency, they are open to open innovation, which I personally believe is very important. And by the way, as a side comment, start thinking at some point whether you cannot bring in your own challenges into hackathons. You are now getting at a point where you can ask others to actually come up with ideas to solve your problems. Think about that. We have made some very good experience with another startup at some point. So this is also an opportunity that I would like to share in the end.
Great, thank you, Mayank and Johannes. And
Yeah,
something
just
to conclude.
one question. Yes, I think nobody asked a question to Dr. Tatiana. What is your impression of Celestial after working 1 year with us and looking at PDRs, CDRs, readiness review? I think this is the left out and is very important for this discussion as well.
Thank you for that. Yes, well, I tried to already highlight how impressed we were with your work and how we see you as a success story for IGLUNA, because as we were trying to push the academic research to commercial applications, we actually see it happen through your project. So we did see also your student documentation, very well prepared, very clear, and that was really nice. It was also very nice to see that you took the challenge of the virtual campaign. So it's something you did not sign up to. When you signed up for IGLUNA at the beginning, you were imagining we'll have a field campaign, a test bed there in Lucerne, and we'll test our technology there. They will support us. And then with this situation, you had to adapt and well, ourselves, and then also all the student teams, and particularly for yourselves, you took this as an opportunity, like, okay, let's not just conclude the project and that's it, but let's really like try to get the project done. So that's when everything went to Mayank's bedroom and it converted into a laboratory. So they could really finish their technology, test it, and do a live test online in the project show. So just not a presentation or a video, but actually a live show. That was really nice to see. And also taking the opportunity to do extra sessions with us. So we had the technical session, now this business session, and just try to do it the best you can, and really the best out of the best. And it was really nice. So we're very happy about your participation, and congratulations for a great job.
Yes, thank you for these kind words. I mean, it's always nice to hear if you're trying so much hard, external people find it good, then this motivates you to keep on doing this, because sometimes the pain is too much, because when you see your room filled, you don't like going in also. I would like to highlight here. But I already want to tell that we are also, and to the audience, for the IGLUNA 2021, we are planning a workshop. And if everything goes fine, we are already in talk with Dr. Tatiana about this. And if everything is sorted out and works fine, I think hopefully with IGLUNA 2021, we won't be participants, but we would be partners, and we would actually, try to conduct this workshop with the students and teach them the basics of communication technology and antennas. So this would be another thing that we are coming up, and just wanted to conclude on this actually from my side.
Thank you very much. Yes, exactly. We look forward for the workshop in the next year, actually, and also for you to share your experience to the new student teams. That would also be valuable on our side. Johannes, any last concluding remarks?
Yeah, I saw in the YouTube chat there was a question of inspiring IGLUNA teams to make a startup. Very briefly, so no problem, I can do this. If you don't want to do a job, if you want to have a purpose, then do a startup, because this is about purpose. Really gives you a purpose, and it's very different than doing a job. And this is a lot of fun.
Thank you very much. Well, with this, we conclude the session. I would like to thank again Johannes and Mayank from Celestial, and Frank Zimmerman. Thank you very much as business mentor. And we're very happy with the discussion today, and I hope our viewers enjoy it too. Have a good evening. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.